Hello everyone, I'm back with my next video on words of wisdom. And today, as you all can see, we have an American inspirational motivator and speaker, Elizabeth Murray. Elizabeth Murray, born on September 23rd, 1980, is an American inspirational speaker who is notable for having been accepted by Howard University despite being homeless in her high school years. She is a 2011 recipient of the Alex Awards. This is a picture of Elizabeth Murray giving an inspirational speech. We can see the confidence in her face. She was born in the Bronx, New York on September 23rd, 1980 to poor and drug-addicted parents, both of whom would later contract HIV. She became homeless just after she turned 15 when her mother died of AIDS in 1996 and her father moved to a homeless shelter. Despite her late high school start and lack of a stable home, Murray began attending the Humanities Preparatory Academy in Chelsea, Manhattan, graduating in 2 years. She was awarded a New York Times scholarship for needy students and was accepted into Howard University, matriculating in the fall semester of 2000. Her older sister Lisa graduated from Purchase College in New York State and is a school teacher for children with autism. She still is a teacher for children who are suffering from autism. She was transferred from Howard to Columbia University in 2003 to care for her ailing father. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Psychology in June 2009. As of August 2009, she began taking graduate courses at Harvard Summer School with plans to earn a doctorate in clinical psychology and become a counselor. She has since earned a master's in the psychology of education from Columbia. She is the founder and director of Manifest Living and a motivational speaker. A made-for-TV film about Murray's life, Homeless to Harvard. The Liz Murray story was released in 2003, and we have a picture of this just beside what I'm reading. Liz Murray's New York Times, US and Sunday Times, UK, best-selling memoir Breaking Night was released in September 2010. On May 19th, 2013, she was awarded an honorary doctorate of public service and gave the commencement address at Merrimack College in North Andover, Massachusetts. We can see here sitting on the stage and giving her motivational speech. And here is the motivational speech of TEDx San Diego, which I wanted to share with each one of you. Just see how she motivates each and every person. So the speech is, hello, good morning, TEDx San Diego. Hey, so good to be here. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the great loves of my life, which is the love of possibility. And what I mean by that is the passion that you have inside of you to create the results that you know that you are meant to create in this world. And in order to do that, I want to share with you a little bit about my journey of going from being a homeless person on the streets of New York City and transforming my life and going on to Harvard. And another piece I want to share with you. Actually, to start that conversation is to talk to you a bit today about one of my heroes, who is someone who has passed away, who was with us as a young man, and his name was Ben Underwood. Ben Underwood is someone who became famous to us in this world because he was someone who we labeled as blind. But he actually had the ability to see in a different way. He had something called echolocation, which you have heard about before with dolphins and bats. He, like some people who don't have sight, found a way to create sound waves. He would, you know, some people pound their foot. He would actually use a clicking noise in his mouth to send sound waves bouncing off the walls around him so that he could actually navigate his way around the world. I know it sounds crazy, but if you go on YouTube, you can see tons of videos of Ben navigating his way around even though he had actually no eyes. And he is an incredible person to me for a few reasons. And one is I would watch these videos of Ben and be so moved by him because any day of the week that you went to his house, you could watch Ben and you would not be able to tell that he was blind. You would watch him run up and down the stairs in his home. His mother, Equaneta, would call down to him and he would get her things from her dresser upstairs. He would ride his bike around the neighborhood. He would hold the door open for people because he was able to make noise that sounded a little like this. And then, while giving the speech, she started making the noise of clicking, send sound waves off and essentially see in a different way. By seeing this picture, who can actually say that Ben Underwood was blind? Elizabeth goes on to say, now scientists became fascinated by Ben and they came from everywhere to study him. You would see scientists and academics and reporters would gather around Ben and they would put him through a series of tests and you would watch them put a telephone on the table or a plate or something and he would click and he would be able to tell you what was in front of him. So people became fascinated by Ben's story. But that's not what moved me so much about Ben's story. There was something else that was different about Ben that really touched my heart. Now, as much as I understand that people are fascinated at the result that he accomplished in his life, which was, let's be straight, was incredible. What I was curious about in watching him was what is the thinking that gets somebody to create that kind of result in their lives? What is it inside of a person that refuses to say, I will label myself as blind and find another way? The answer to that question is something that moved me to tears when I learned about Ben's story. And what that is was a conversation that took place between Ben and his mother the day of his surgery. This is a picture of Ben's mother. Now, he was 2 weeks away of his third birthday and his mother had put him through intense chemotherapy because he had had cancer in both eyes and she had a choice to make. Do I give Ben a ton of chemotherapy and keep risking his life and maybe save his eyes? Or do I remove his eyes entirely? And if I do, he'll live, but he'll have no sight. She made the tough call. They removed his eyes. And I'm just going to ask you for one moment to imagine, if you could, what would what you would say to your 3-year-old if they woke up from surgery without their eyes? What could you possibly say? So I listened carefully at the words his mother, Aquanetta, chose to share. And what she did was, as soon as Ben woke up and said, "Mom, I can't see," she immediately said to him, "Ben, yes, you can." And in her own words, she said, "I took his little hands and I placed them on my cheeks. And I said, 'Ben, you can see with your hands.' And then I said, 'Ben, here.' And I gave him my arm. And I let him smell my skin. And she said, 'Ben, you can smell my skin. And you can see with your smell.' And then I whispered in his ear, 'Ben, you can absolutely see. You can see with your ears.'" Continuing her speech, Elizabeth said, "I relate to that in my own life because, well, you guys know that at some point I ended up homeless in my life. And that happened because I grew up in the Bronx in a very tough neighborhood. My parents, they had always used drugs. I mean, my whole life they had been getting high. And it was commonplace in my household to walk and see my parents shooting up drugs in my kitchen. And growing up, even though they were very loving to us, my sister and I watched them use drugs so frequently that just the way that our lives went. That went on for so long. You can't live like that forever. It catches up to you. Eventually, both my parents contracted HIV, and by the time I was that age that most people are when they are planning their prom or applying to college, what happened in my life? Instead, was that my mother was without access to the medications they have now. She went from having HIV to full-blown AIDS. My father was living in a homeless shelter. I found myself at 15 years old sleeping in New York City streets and parks and subway stations. Many nights I would fall asleep with my backpack in my lap. And I would have my journal, my clothing. I had a picture of my mother when she was my age, and she was homeless in the New York City when her family had fallen apart. Now, living this way, I know I sound pretty different from other people because it's such an intense situation, but I actually think I was really just like everyone else. No matter what was in front of me, I had dreams that I wanted to accomplish. I mean, don't we all? I had things like I wanted to go to school, I wanted to have a family, I wanted to live a better life. But you know, people listen when they hear my story, and I guess much like Ben, when they study his echolocation, they want him to be able to distinguish the telephone from the computer or whatever they did with him. People would often ask me very strange questions about being homeless. People would ask me, "Did you eat from the trash?" Or, "Where did you sleep?" The things that people are interested in fascinate me. When instead, what really was in my heart was probably the most amazing experience I had, was again this internal experience. I had these dreams, but living in that kind of despair, I let them begin to fade away. Have you ever felt hopeless in your life? Where you had something that you wanted to do, but it felt so much out of your reach? I had this voice in the back of my head, and I believe we all have. I call it the what if voice. And the what if voice said, what if you go to school? What if you change your life? What if you go back? And I let that voice fade in all of this sadness that I was in. And there is a quote that I love by Dr. Martin Luther King. And what he says is, your life begins to end the day you become silent about things that matter. And feelings that inside of me, that was the most dangerous thing about being in my situation. But what occurred was incredible. I had a transformational experience. Unfortunately, it came through tragedy. It was when my mother died. But when she passed away, what my mother did for me, and maybe it was the intense love that we had for each other because we loved each other so much, her dying, it unlocked my mind to begin to think of possibility in my own life. And the best way I know how to explain this is there was something about knowing that at one moment I had a family, I had my mother, and then I lost everything. And I realized that life changed pretty rapidly for the worst. But life changed. Life can change. And I was inspired by this belief that my life could in fact change. With that thinking in mind, I remember knocking on doors in high schools. I would dust myself off after sleeping on the train. I would knock on doors at high schools after years of being truant, and I would ask them to accept me. I should have been applying to college. I was applying to high school. That's how old I was. I was knocking on doors, asking for them to accept me. And I went from school to school to school, and I experienced a lot of rejections. But there was this feeling in my heart, a feeling that I want so badly to transfer to everyone that I meet now, which is that passion that I felt for that. What would happen if I just kept going? Even if there was every evidence in the world that it wouldn't work out, what if? And for the idea that even though it was unlikely after being told no so many times, it was possible that the next school would accept me. And so I continued to knock on doors until I was accepted. And then I fell in love with what would be possible if I got straight A's for the first time in my life. So I did that. And then I fell in love with what would be possible if I applied to Harvard. She goes on to say, and I fell in love with what would be impossible. Well, with applying for a scholarship for the New York Times. And I had no idea how big this would get. I didn't know that I would actually be able to lift myself out of homeless, go on to Harvard, graduate, and entirely change my life. Now, like Ben, who I mentioned in the beginning, people get pretty fixated and fascinated on the result. Talk to me about Howard, or talk to me about mechanics of how you did what you did. People think about that. And what I am moved by instead is falling in love with possibility in your life. Because haven't you ever felt in a place of despair? You had a goal, you had something you wanted to accomplish, and you started feeling that fading feeling. In fact, I love when people talk to youth because you know what they will often say? I always hear people say, it's great you have all the passion you have. Get it done while you are young. Raise your hand if anyone's ever told you youth or uniquely qualified. Say, I. And when she said, she told the audience to say I, the whole of the audience who were getting so motivated, all of them in a chorus said I. And so I hear this with youth, and I always thought that sounded kind of screwy because what's the implication? That one day in your life you will no longer be passionate, you will no longer be capable. And here's what I believe: absolutely no one knows what's possible until they are already doing it. And each and every moment is always another chance. No matter what your history is, no matter where you have come from, every moment is a new possibility. And if I could leave you with something, I'll tell you that as I moved through these obstacles in my life, I was tempted so much to think that because of my past, I could not change my future. But that feeling of, okay, I'll let it go. What will happen if I apply to school? What will happen if I apply to the scholarship? What will happen if I put one foot in front of the other until my world changes around me? So, any time that you are hunkered down in that feeling of despair, any time that you may ever doubt yourself or believe for a second that there was a before and after to your potential in this world, I am standing here today to tell you that your potential is timeless. And will you do this with me now as I leave here? Will you go? New moment, new opportunity? Do it with me now. New moment, new opportunity, new moment, new opportunity. And one more time, new moment, new opportunity. Your potential in this world is timeless. My wish for you is that you fall in love with possibility and you marvel in what it will create in your life and in this world. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm sure everyone must have got motivated by such an inspirational speech. That means love the concept of possibility. Everything is possible if you want to do something. Let us see what else she says. She says, anything that is within someone else's reach is also within yours. Set your goals, no matter how impossible they may seem. Then focus on what is between you and that goal, and then simply take out the obstacles as they come. She also says, I knew at that moment I had to make a choice. I could submit to everything that was happening and live a life of excuses, or I could push myself. I could push myself and make my life good. She also says, this fork in the road happens over 100 times a day, and it's the choices that you will make that you will determine the shape of your life. She also says, I need to take advantage of life right now. If I don't, it will pass me by. It's just that easy. She says, instead, what I was beginning to understand was that however things unfolded from here on, whatever the next chapter was, my life could never be the sum of one circumstance. It would be determined, as it had always been, by my willingness to put one foot in front of another, moving forward, come what may. So life is all about being positive, have the willingness to do things, always believe in possibility. Everything is possible. Keep going on. Keep moving on. I hope you all liked this video of mine, got really motivated. We'll meet next Wednesday with another motivational character. Till then, goodbye, take care,